and I did a lot of that.
But it's also for trailblazers too. So our kids will not pay the same tax that we paid. So we're making a new avenue, and that just costs time, effort, energy, and money. But it should come out in the dividends.
Yeah. Well, I did help my kids buy an 8-plex. I'm not going to hand over everything, the keys to them. My belief is they need to have some grit, but helped them out with an 8-plex. It'll help them all through college. So I have a video on YouTube that kind of shows how we did that. But it's just again, I want my kids to have it, but I talk about with wealthy people today. It's like, how do you set your kids up?
All right, welcome to Real Estate Hustlers Podcast. I'm your host, Josh Appelman. Today we're with Marc Kuhn. He's an entrepreneur who started his construction career in 1994, working for $1 an hour with his dad's company. In 2010, with just $2,500, he launched MAK Construction. That's MAK Construction. Now a $25 million powerhouse. Today he runs 3 8-figure companies, helping investors achieve financial freedom through real estate. Marc, we appreciate you coming on the show today. If you could let the listeners know a little bit more about yourself.
Yeah, man. No, I love it. What do you want to dive into first? Should I go through some history?
Well, the episode's about luxury storage, so we'll get to that. But first, just tell us how you got to where. Tell us the journey, where you started and how you got here.
Yeah, I always like to share that because I think a lot of people find it interesting. About a decade ago, all I did was concrete. I did concrete work. I did more work. I learned that from my dad's trade, starting at $1 an hour. So you kind of mentioned that. And I like to just tell people, even 8 years ago, I was just a concrete guy. That was what I mainly focused on. That's where I made my money. But then, the 3 coffees a day, 3 monsters a day diet doesn't kind of catches up with you. I was physically fit, but I was chemically imbalanced, meaning I started dealing with like panic attacks. You're working 100 hours a week in the concrete industry. That's just what it is, unfortunately. And, but I loved it. I was great at it. I was phenomenal. I could do it all. I could do the estimate. I could do, control the finances around it. I could run the business, sales. I did it all. Right. And, I had employees that worked in the field, and I gained a couple employees every year, when I started in 2010. And then by like 2016, I ended up hitting the hospital and with panic attack, and didn't know why. I was with some buddies going to an event, and here I was in the hospital, and the doctor actually asked a couple of questions. He's like, hey, what would you do if if you died today? What would your family do? I had one kid at the time, a daughter. It was one, and then my wife. And really I had nothing is what we had amounted to. I didn't leave her anything. If I would have died, because I was pretty in bad shape, my heart, just chemically. And so with that being said, it's like, it opens your eyes. It took to be that doctor who asked me random questions. I didn't know what he was asking me that in the hospital, like hooked up to all these EKG monitors. It's like, and so that was the most interesting part. And then it really opened my eyes. It's like, okay, then you get real curious into something. It's like, how do I actually grow something? How do I build a business that I like doesn't revolve just around me? And because at that time, my wife would have sold the trailers and, the equipment, and there you go. That's what you get. So I got real curious on building wealth, and I started Googling it and getting, how do you do this? How do you, Warren Buffett says, how do you make money while you sleep? I was like, I can't, that's impossible. And then you start researching. And like I said, this is 8 years ago. Just getting really curious. And then I got super curious, started reading books and things I wasn't doing. And you end up finding real estate. I think Grant Cardone, I was typing in real estate enough times or talking about it that like he was blowing up on social media at that point, talking about real estate. And it was just curious to me, like how you do that. So started just changing my ways, started getting curious about real estate, started getting curious about making a real business. The business side you ended up using like entrepreneurial operating system. And what it does is it builds a leadership team that actually operates the company that you don't always need to be a part of. Of course, I'm the visionary. I cast vision, but I needed to get myself removed from operations and hire people better than me, which costs money. I get that. But it was the best thing that I ever did. And then on the real estate side, I was like in Grant Cardone's first mentorship group. You always need somewhere to live. So multifamily came to be the big thing for me at that time. And I was just trying to figure out a path, and like, things don't pencil, and, just learning, oh, there's a creative side. Oh, there's all the, there's all these avenues that I didn't know were possible. And And so just through education till about 2020, and then I ended up just starting taking a bunch of action, buying real estate, didn't even know how to do a performer or what it was. I knew that the rent was higher than the debt payment. So that was good enough in my eyes. And the bank allowed me to take the loan. So I'm like, they wouldn't give me the loan if it didn't make sense. So that was my theory. And I think because of that, I ended up going in pretty hard. And you make mistakes along the way, but I made some good decisions too. Now we've evolved. We got, you know, 30 LLCs of different properties, and we're able to raise capital through MAK Capital, and we do development work through MAK Capital, and we have this construction team that's about 50 people. And so, we're able to basically take real estate from start of development all the way to completion, and now we manage the asset after it's built. So it's just like it's vertically integrated, and I didn't understand that 8 years ago, but I wish I would have understood it when I first started, because I think I would have been a little further. But I did learn a lot pouring a lot of concrete too, and from that one doctor.
I call it ignorance tax, when you don't know what you don't know.
The Road Less Stupid is one of my favorite books, and it's paying the dumb tax, and I did a lot of that.
But it's also for trailblazers too. So our kids will not pay the same tax that we paid. So we're making a new avenue, and that just costs time, effort, energy, and money. But it should come out in the dividends.
Yeah. Well, I did help my kids buy an 8-plex. I'm not going to hand over everything, the keys to them. My belief is they need to have some grit, but helped them out with an 8-plex. It'll help them all through college. So I have a video on YouTube that kind of shows how we did that. But it's just again, I want my kids to have it, but I talk about with wealthy people today, it's like, how do you set your kids up? So it's like, it's an interesting conversation. It's like, how do you make them try to go through some of that so they have, some of those pains and figure out how things on themselves, more or less, instead of
teach them how to fish. That's the biggest piece. That's but at the same time, they would not have even thought about buying an 8-plex if you didn't trailblaze the path there.
Right.
Like that wasn't it's just not a thought until it becomes something. So it's that's great. And then EOS, that's huge. That clarity on anything is everything. I mean, that just gives you the vision to get there, working from the end in mind. Good stuff for sure.
So absolute game changer for us, for sure.
Yeah. Tell us about your first deal, how that came about, how you funded it, what all it was, and the success behind it.
Yeah. So my first deal, I'll probably tell you my second deal. It might be a little more interesting to the audience, but my first deal was like, I just was sick of bouncing our office for MAK Construction when we were building that around. And so we had a government entity who was also looking for a space. My general manager's wife she worked for the entity, so we kind of knew about it was coming. And I found an office space that worked for them, and it worked for us. And we could actually cover all the rent just with us too. And then there was like 4 more suites in this office space that I could lease out. And I didn't understand anything about it. Like I said, this was the one that we just got an appraisal. I thought my rent numbers and with the expenses, like I'd net enough to pay the debt. And, ended up just putting, like, I had $250,000. Obviously not everyone has that when they're beginning, but, I did have this construction company that I could leverage and make some capital to put into real estate. So that was like my first deal. But like my second deal really is where I think I got more interested in the space. And this is when I got curious. I'm up in North Dakota, so pretty, there's 700,000 people in the state, so it's not a lot. And I live, very small. So, less competition though, right? And there's different advantages we have up here. But I was working with an investment group out of Vegas. These guys were, I don't know, I think they have over $1 billion of asset management funding, and they hired my wife and I was the builder for them, and my wife was the realtor. So that's how we've always worked. And they liked us. So I was small. I think they liked that, low overhead, different things. But I learned, we were building product that was 1990s product and trying to sell it for way too much. We told them that it wasn't going to happen. And they just like, wow, we need to net so much for the investors. And it's like, after a while, the whole thing went south. Like they just couldn't sell units. And so they ended up selling me the lots, kind of creatively financing. I didn't know anything about that. They kind of told me like, hey, draft your terms and we'll try to make this work for you, because we want out. And so there was like 6 rental units. There were 70 lots there. And there was about 40 units left to develop. So, well, we knew how to develop them now because we were building them, but we knew what they were lacking, these townhomes. They had a baseboard heat and a window shaker. So it was like, people just didn't want that in our market. And so basically we were able to develop this entire site. And developments always get most profitable towards the end, because at the beginning stages everything's thin, and as you keep going on, it'll always get better as you keep developing units on a piece of land. The land game is expensive. So then we actually turned 22 units when we got it finished. We were able to turn 22 units into our syndication, and try to raise capital for it, which I knew nothing about. This was my next vertical into this is like 2020 when I just started to learn how to raise capital and how you do it and the things you should be doing. Knew nothing, failed miserably, had the wrong operating agreements, PPM, all of it was wrong. I mean, and I had to, quickly learn and learn from my mistakes, but figured out how to raise money. Yeah, dude, it's just, what I figured out is that real estate in that deal, I figured out that real estate's always money outflow. And you have to use other people's money. If you just do everything yourself, I mean, that's great if you have the ability to do that. But if you want to scale and grow, you have to be able to use other people's money in order to do that. And they got to like the asset class you're in. And so that, and so those were my first 2 deals. It was some townhomes, a big townhome development, and my office space, which did not have the knowledge close to how I had it today. But I think paying some dumb tax is okay too. I think people should make some mistakes. And if you were too smart for every deal, you probably wouldn't do any deal today. It wouldn't make sense for you.
Yeah, you take risk for sure.
Yeah, but if you say, hey, how do I get the deal done? Any deal can get done, I promise you. Even if they want astronomical amounts, 2021
but the money
prices
will not come. Like they say that we can find a good deal, the money will come. That is far, far, far from true.
Oh gosh, yeah, amen. I've made that mistake too. One of my worst experiences developing was a 93 unit apartment complex, $20 million, and this was 2021. So I moved fast, right? Like I was right into the deal. Interest rates were cheap. Building material was crazy. And we had the chance and we dang near closed it, but the capital just didn't all show up. So we had to pull the plug on it.
Yeah, but those are the deals.
That was a $600,000 mistake though.
But at the same time, if it did close, then the real problems could have set in. Because I know if I would have closed the first 77 unit I was after, it would have ended my career. And I'm just glad it didn't happen. I didn't know then what I do now. And it's almost like, damn, good thing that did not work out. Because everything happens for a reason. So it's cool. But that got you into where we're at now, luxury storage. So tell us about how that came about and then some projects you've done.
Yeah. So that same office parcel I bought, there was land available around it, and I just started kind of acquiring the land through like a 5-year buyout with the landowner because I didn't have the money. And the land worked really good. It was light industrial. So I was like, you know what? Let's try storage. Even though I was a big believer in just multifamily because of you need a place to live, and I was in the Grant Cardone method. I tried storage, and I actually my first complex I did this building's like 50 by 180, whatever, as simple as it gets. It was 14 units, 12 by 14 overhead garage door. We did half heated and half unheated because I wasn't sure if everyone needed a heated unit. And I'm sure, I built it, and the heated ones, I'm in North Dakota again, so it's climate controlled, and they all filled up right away, and none of the non-heated did. So I was like, it only is going to cost me another 50 grand or so to insulate and put the heaters in. And so I did that on the other side, filled them all up right away. So I was like, dang, I got spot for another building. Built it, filled it. I mean, it was faster. And so I just kind of learned the model. I was like, dang, I think storage actually works. I just wasn't a believer because it's like, some people think it's like, who needs a storage? And these were larger bays. I mean, you're talking like luxury storage model is 600 to 1,200 square feet per unit. And when I say luxury storage, you're thinking, those luxury garages, man caves that have like Ferraris in them and whatnot. And that's a common that's a common theme because you see a lot of that, and those market well because there's a lot of pictures online of cool man caves. Ours are the boring version of that. Ours are 2 lights, an outlet, a 12 by 14 overhead door with a walk door, and it's climate controlled. That's basically to us what a luxury storage unit. There's no bathroom, there's no mezzanines, at least the units that we build, and it's the very boring model of that. But it's basically light industrial is what we call it. We term it luxury storage because it's different amenities than you would typically get at a storage unit. And the difference about our model, typically people would charge year leases and in small bay, like where they do have the bathrooms and whatever. But we wanted to build and hold every facility. So we really just had facilities that we could try to build in bulk, try to get to an institutional quality on them and make them nice units, but always keep them larger. Let's not mix 18 by 50s with 5 by 5s and 10 by 10s because we want a clientele that's these business owners that need in light industrial flex space. That means you can rent the bay next to you if it's available, and you can rent another bay like as your business expands. At some point, you're going to leave, you're going to graduate from our facility because you probably left your garage or something, and now you're working out of our facilities. 75% of our tenant base is all business owners. Whether they own a bar and they need to stock beer, or they have Turo cars and they have 4 of them stuffed in there, or semi drivers that need somewhere to park it and keep it warm or keep it cool, whatever the case is. Those are a lot of the tenant base that feed in. I think I always think of the statistic, and most people probably don't know this, but it makes sense that but pre-COVID, there was about 3.5 million new businesses each year in the US. And everyone wants to work on their own now. Everyone wants to work on their own time, even if it's more than working at a job. They want to work on their own. And now there's about 6 million, almost 6 million new jobs every year in the US since COVID, and that's increasing. So you just can tell how many new small businesses, and those are a lot of the small businesses that we're serving. They could be small contractors. They could be, a small flower shop that needs a place to put stuff. It could be a business owner that just wants a write-off for his business to park his own stuff for personally. It could be guys that most of these suburbs or the metropolitan areas, they're strict HOAs. Some of you can't even park in your driveway. They're just finding a lot of reasons that why our small bays, and some people call it small bay, we term it luxury storage. And it's getting a lot of traction. We're going to build about 500,000 square feet this year of new luxury storage facilities. And that's kind of what we're hoping each year to kind of achieve with the team we have.
Yeah, I mean, e-commerce, people that are selling on Etsy and some of these other shops.
Yeah.
Do you all have drive up? Do you all have the bays where semi trucks can unload, or is it just drive up bays?
It's literally just drive up bays. So
Okay.
we don't want them here that often with semis and logistics, but can we be a cheaper storage place for you that a place where you can store stuff? Yes. So we will let them work there every day. It's not like I want a welding shop in there. You get 15 amps of power. So whatever you can do with that.
Yeah. No, and I mean, when we were buying our interior trim packages, the guy that was running the custom, I mean, his custom, he operated out of a storage center. I mean, that was his deal. He had all of his stock there, his inventory, his desk for paperwork.
Yeah.
And that's what he did. I mean, the concept is on point. It works. What would be like the amount of acreage you would need to make it pencil to make it make sense to build one?
Yeah, so most of our facilities, we market partnerships around the U.S. and we usually 5 to 10 acre facilities are really good. We can only be on one level. We're not like the 4-story you see where a gas station or a car wash would be, those prominent corners. We're out in the suburbs where those businesses live. Typically the businesses live out there because it's a little cheaper, and then they drive into the metropolitan areas. And so we need to be all on one level. So the efficiency just drops. So we can't pay as much per square foot. It's not like we can pay $30 a square foot for our type of facilities.
How much are you charging like per unit? What would that be? And that's a monthly basis. Like what would
Yeah, so we see everything in square feet, which is about 80 to 90 cents a square foot for climate control. And I'm in the Midwest, like I said, North Dakota. Sunbelt regions, you could see 1 to 120. What does that equate in rent per unit? You could say somewhere between 600 and 1,000. That's typically where our units come in.
Got it. You don't feel like you're leaving money on the table?
Occupancy and storage, occupancy dictates that, right? If we're over 92%, we're increasing rents. If we're under 86, we're, holding steady or giving incentives. So it's just a revenue model. We push rents as we can, as the market lets us dictate that. But
good answer.
Yeah,
I just see the plumber, the electrician, and they're making money out of that space, and they would be happy to. I mean, it's convenience. It's a kind of it's light industrial.
right. And we let it load them on their Amex. I'm not looking to sign you to a year lease.
Yeah.
A lot of our facilities will fill up and then they're like, hey, I had that extra unit is available. And it's like, no, there's a wait list for those now. So people learn during, like, obviously the summertime in North Dakota, it's not cold, but they've learned that it's like, keep the unit. Cause of course, come October, when it cools down, it's already full. So we have a lot of, and it's lower turnover. Like we turn very little units. I think on a 100-unit facility, we're turning maybe 1 or 2 a month. It's very little.
And you don't have any operational costs. I mean, you're billing it all back, right?
Yeah, it's very much everything's automated.
Yeah.
Of course, we have some OpEx like utilities and whatever. It's all in the rent basis. Don't pay for anything else.
Man, I would bill that back.
Yeah. And there may come a time when we insert a RUBS program into it or a RUBS kind of program into it, but we don't do that right now.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I'm thinking we got a piece of land. We just closed on a property that has additional land on it. And it might even be a good fit for something like that. It's in a great area. So it's like 2.5 acres. So I don't know if it's too small to put anything on it. I'm just not sure.
Well, here's what we think about when we think about a facility. I always think about I have a pretty big LinkedIn presence. I've raised capital with family offices and different. I ask them what they want, right? And what do you want to see when you buy? Because most of them can't place money with me. They need 5, 10, 15 million checks minimum, 20 million, And so I just ask them, what would you buy from me then? And so if I roll these facilities up, and that's really my plan, every 5 years, I'm going to roll up $150 million in facilities. What do you want to buy? It's automation. It's, low management, low maintenance, everything you could think of. It's institutional grade quality is really what they're looking for. And they'll pay a premium for it too, from you. You know what I mean? And so
as long as it's creating yield, like a 4 cap, I mean, they'll go, especially automation piece.
Yeah. You can manage it with 2 people, $150 million in facilities. Of course, you got building managers that you have at each facility, but you don't need many people to run that much real estate. And it comes with a ton of depreciation, which our investors like through storage.
Yeah.
Because we're able to accelerate. Yeah. Yep. So, we back to your land piece though, we like to keep it institutional grade efficiency. We really need to have almost 60 to 80,000 square feet on site. And if you think of a really efficient square piece of land, very level, you're going to get 35 to 40% efficiency out of it with the drive lanes of actual building. So, that's, you can kind of do the math on saying your minimum square, might be 5 acres or something to that nature. On 2.5 acres, I've built a facility. I've gotten 42,000 square feet and I've built a facility that size, but if I were to redo it, I'd have tried to get another 2.5, about 5 acres.
Make it work,
as a
make
minimum.
it make sense.
Yeah. You could do multiple ones in the market though, right? Like they can play off each other. It's not that, maybe this side of the city needs this and maybe the other side of the city, but you can run it with one building manager. That's the important piece.
Yeah, I know parking would work, of course, but it's like, man, I really like you can't depreciate land, of course,
right,
or the gravel. So if I put something on there, how long does the entitlement process take if you take it to the city?
Yeah, so we found out if you keep it termed luxury storage and not just storage, or small bay.
That's a hack right there. That's a nugget.
That's a hack, because you're telling them you're going to build a good facility. You can show them pictures of other facilities, and we're doing nicer facilities. We want a nicer tenant base. So that helps us a ton, honestly. It does. And as long as you keep the word luxury, it seems like if you're going to go to your Scottsdales or whatever, that's a product type that they actually want there.
Would you put restrooms in it? I mean, if you're wanting to command higher rates.
Yeah. So it depends on the land, right? Like, so for our facilities, typically, no, we don't do restrooms. We don't want you there long term. If we're going to build, we call them contractor shop, business suites, condos, business condos, whatever you want to term them. Usually, like, say we do 10 acres. Well, we might do 2 acres of condo shops. And then they graduate from our luxury storage facility to there. You know what I mean? And they have a rentable facility or so a place to go and expand their business, more or less. And then you could take it a step further and say, oh, geez, I got more land. Maybe I should implement parking. You know what I mean? Because most of our facilities are very clean. We're strict management. There's nothing outside. It's got to look good always. And that's just the way we run it. But a lot of people ask, well, I need parking. So it's like, you can tuck parking back, along the way, put your condo shops up front with the bathrooms that want their business sign somewhere, and then have your luxury storage facility off to one area. There you go. There's your kind of dream facility. And that's kind of what we're evolving into.
Got it. Maybe like a community restroom area, possibly.
Yeah. We've some cities push that. We try to get around it for our parking and our luxury storage, just because depending upon the site, sometimes we'll get it grabbing water and grabbing sewer can cost you a ton more money per building.
Tap fee.
Yeah. And so it's just our business model is pretty boring right now, and we've kept it that way. Our investors have liked it that way. Not a lot of moving parts, not a lot of utility bills. And it just keeps it lower cost, because if we involve bathrooms, it's just a different business model you've entered. And now it's not really storage. Yeah. You've kind of entered the commercial renting space, right? Like, someone wants to run their business out of there. It's a little harder to do that. And that's why we always just keep a small portion condo shops, mainly luxury storage, and then involve parking when need be.
And I'm just picking your brain, because these are questions that people have or wondering, and
let's do it.
Like a portalette out there, maybe. I'm just thinking of out of command, higher rates, and then of course you got the person's in between running their business. They don't want to go down to the retail shop or the industrial shop, pay $3,000, $4,000 a month, and they're just they're just bootstrapping it right now. But you want that higher clientele, because it's luxury too. So there's an in between.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and like I said, we're not mixing 5x5s, 10x10s, 10x20s. We're just not. That's not our business model. We keep it luxury storage because it's large bay. There's a few times where we've done non-climate controlled. It just depends when you get close to those middle of the country markets, Kansas, where it's pretty mild. And then when you hit the Sunbelt markets, you're suddenly moving from the opposite of North Dakota, where you need AC, but you also do need heat. So you're heating with like mini split systems, and you're controlling the temperature too. So it's just different wherever market you're at.
Mini splits, that's another. Okay.
Yeah. So, and that's because every heating system is individualized, but it's also controlled temperature-wise.
And then the electric is just master metered.
The electric, yep. It's just on 1 meter. We, like I said, it's built into the rent. So if we need to up rents, what I love about the storage business, and you kind of hit it on it before, but it's like every month we can adjust rents, right? We have that ability.
Okay.
And if our revenue model isn't working out, we can adjust very quickly. We don't have to wait a year, 2-year leases before we can adjust rates on our tenants. And, obviously you can do a peanut butter spread, 2.5% increase every year on a normal lease. We can adjust rents up to 20, we've done it up to 20% in 1 year. Did the tenants like it? Well, no, but we did it incrementally, and we said our occupancy is at 100. So if you can go find different space, but we're still a lot more affordable than your condo shops. We're half the money or less, and you can pay with your Amex with me. You know what I mean? And so they like that. They're like, no, it's still way cheaper than anything else we can find. And then also with like luxury storage, you don't have bathrooms and you start implementing more things for insurance. Insurance does get quite a bit more. If you can
Yeah.
keep it storage, it really is that we are the grayscale, right? Of condo shop to just plain storage units. They insure very differently. So just keeping that in mind, it's another kind of hack that we can get the most amount of money for and provide it, but we don't have bathrooms. So
Yeah.
obviously there's not all the amenities.
And the demand is there, so why make it complicated?
Right. Hey,
That's huge.
boring can make money too. Well, for sure it does.
Yeah.
Flashy doesn't always make money.
Yeah, no, you're right. I mean, it looks good on the top line, and then whatever's left is whatever's left. Hopefully, there's more. But on the cap rate, how much? No, actually, let me get what banks are you going to fund your developments? What are you seeing the appetite out there for?
Yes, we just got done with a couple projects, requests for financing. We did 15 different banks. We had a couple brokers out there searching the entire nation for debt. Our deal size, like when you're looking at a 5 or whatever 7-10 acre deal, you're going to be somewhere in the neighborhood, at least in the Midwest, we're in the neighborhood of uh, 10 to 20 million, we'll call it. And I think even in the Sunbelt markets, most of it is about in that range. But these community banks, some like storage, some don't. But we've had the most luck with local debt
Yeah.
close to that market. And we typically have a partner. So like if we want to enter the market of Waco, Texas, we have a partner that is able to get us some of the entitlements and help us out, because my team is 5 at MAK Capital. We look for strategic general partners where we do webinars, we train them, we tell them exactly what we're doing, what we're looking for. They get part of the GP because of that. We help raise the money because we're creating awareness for luxury storage, and we have the investors for that. But they get part of the GP, so they're a real partner, and that's how we get facilities really off the ground in other markets. Otherwise, I don't know a thing about developing in Texas or Arizona or Florida. You really have to have a localized partner, because half of development is politics. And if you don't know politics, you shouldn't be in development, or you should hire a guy that knows politics, because it's really what it is, to try to get deals entitled quicker or than just anyone out there, right? Like any Joe Schmo that's going to apply for entitlements.
Yeah, no, that's good advice for sure.
Yeah.
So in regional banks, local community banks, yeah, they're the go-tos. And then like we send out weekly updates on projects that are
Yeah.
value add. So just that communication piece is so much tighter with community banks and regionals.
Yeah.
They give you the feedback, and you can tell they appreciate it. So that's cool. Awesome. If Mark, if somebody wants to get a hold of you, reach out, learn more about yourself, possibly invest with you, how can they get a hold of you?
Yeah. So one of the best places to see my material is LinkedIn. And then I have a big presence there. And then I have a newsletter called Unfollow the Herd that I put out deals, how you do your own deals. Maybe you're looking to do your first deal. I've gotten hundreds of emails. I mean, people pay for a free email. And it's pretty cool that I can share what our deals look like. I'll literally put the whole closing statement on there, how we did this, how we did that, how we structured it. And people can get a lot of ideas. I've gotten a lot of feedback that people have saved hundreds of thousands of dollars just helping. So that's an important one to me. But I'm on Instagram. I do YouTube. And I'm on all platforms. And I share as much information as I can. I think I stay close to people because I'm in the mud right now. I have like 11 development deals going. They all have different structures. They all have different, needs and wants and creativity to them. So I share those, and it really helps out a lot of people. So I get a lot of, purpose behind it, and it feel good thing.
Well, it keeps your discipline too. Just if you're giving updates, it forces you to do it. So I like that style for sure.
Yeah.
And being omnipresent, absolutely.
Yeah,
Cool,
absolutely.
Mark. We definitely appreciate your time. Look forward to following you, and should have people reaching out. So thank you.
Yeah, Josh, appreciate you,
All right.
buddy.
Thank you. Bye.